Please press bell icon to subscribe to my channel Seema Gautam for more videos. In this module, we are going to learn about the French Revolution, Grade 9 CBSE, Chapter 1 of History. So, French Revolution started in 1789. The series of events started by the middle class, shaken the upper classes. The people revolted against the cruel regime of monarchy. This revolution put forward the ideas of liberty, fraternity, and equality. In this, we are going to learn introduction I'll give you about the French Revolution, which I have given already. And then we are going to discuss about the causes of French Revolution, social causes, economic causes, political causes, growing middle class, philosophers and their contribution in revolution, the outbreak of the revolution, France becomes a constitutional monarchy, France abolishes monarchy and becomes a republic, the reign of terror, the directory rules France, women revolution, the abolition of slavery, the revolution of everyday life, rise of Napoleon Bonaparte, and the legacy of the French Revolution. So when we are learning about the French Revolution, we will find a lot of information about the French Revolution that will eventually make us understand the why and how of the French Revolution started. So revolution began on 14 July 1789 with the storming of fortress prison, that's the Bastille. The Bastille, the fortress prison, was hated by all because it stood for the despotic power of the king, and the fortress was demolished. Here we'll discuss the causes. So first we will discuss here the political causes. So Louis XVI came into the throne in 1774 and found empty treasury. Long years of war had drained the financial resources of finance. Under Louis XVI, France helped the 13 American colonies to gain their independence from the common enemies. Britain, which added more than $1 billion livres to a debt that had already risen to more than 2 billion livres. An extravagant court at the immense palace of the Versailles also cost a lot. To meet its regular expenses, such as the cost of maintaining an army, the court, running government offices or universities, the state was forced to increase taxes. Here we'll discuss the second cause, that is social cause. French society during the late 8th century, the term old regime is usually used to describe the society and institution of France before 1789. Society was divided into 3 estates. First estate, clergy, that's a group of persons involved in church matters. Second estate, that's nobility, that persons who have high ranks in the state administration. Third estate is comprises of big businessmen, merchants, court officials, lawyers, peasants, and artisans, landless laborers, servants, etc. France was split into 3 estates, as I said, in the 18th century, and the feudal system was part of society estate dating back to the medieval era. 90% of populace was dominated by the peasants, but only a small percentage of them owned the land they farmed. 60% belonged to the nobles, the church, and other wealthier members of the third estate. Since the birth clergy and nobility members of the first 2 estates had certain special privileges, these groups were excluded from paying taxes and enjoy feudal privileges. The third estate paid taxes to the estate, which included a direct tax known as tele and the list of indirect taxation on everyday goods such as salt or tobacco. Here we will just go ahead and learn the how was the conditions and all. So the increase in the population had already led to a rapid increase in demand for good food grains. The production of grains could not really keep up with the demands that led to a rapid increase in the price of bread. Due to the low wages paid to the workers, the divide between the rich and the poor widened. Things got worse when the drought or the hail reduced the harvest and all. There is an activity given like explain why the artist has portrayed the nobleman as a spider and the peasants as the fly. So answer can be here like spider feeds on the fly, whereas the fly does not hard labor for finding its food. Similarly, in 18th century France, the nobles lived off the labor of the peasants, and the social reality of the time was peasants had to pay feudal dues as well as rendering services for the nobles. Here we'll move ahead and discuss about the third cause, that is economic causes. Here is a like subsistence crisis also you are going to learn. The population of France rose from about 23 million in 1715 to 28 million in 1789. This increased the demand for the food grains. However, the production could not keep pace with the demand, which ultimately increased the prices of the food grains. Most workers work as laborers in the workshops, and they did not see increase in their wages. Situation became worse whenever drought, as I said before also in the previous slide, helped reduce their harvest, and this led to the scarcity of the food grains or subsistence crisis, which started occurring frequently during the old regime over here. So you can see here the activity is given even in your textbook as well. Bad harvest is given over here. So after the bad harvest, the food rights used to be there, scarcity of grains used to be there, then increased number of death, then rising food prices, and the weaker bodies and all. This was a situation of France. Here we'll just go ahead and discuss the role of middle classes here. So growing middle class, the 18th century witnessed the emergence of the social groups termed the middle class, who earned their wealth through overseas trade from manufacturing of goods and profession. This class was educated, believed that no group in society should be privileged by birth. They were inspired by the ideas put forward by the various philosophers and became a matter of talk intensively for these classes in salons and the coffee houses, and spread amongst people through books and newspapers. The American Constitution and its guarantee of the individual rights was an important example for the political thinkers in the France. So a new system of government was proposed during these times by Roche on the basis of a social contract between the people and their representatives. Similarly, Montesquieu also proposed the division of power within the government and between the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary. Here we'll discuss the outbreak of the revolution over here. So the Louis XVI called an assembly of the State Journal to pass his proposal to increase taxes on 5th May 1789. So in the late 1700s, the monarch did not have the power to impose taxes. A meeting of the Eastern Journal had to be called to submit proposal for new taxes. So leader of the first and second estates were present, and the third estate were represented by its wealthy and the educated members. The leaders of the third estate started demanding that each members have one vote. So 300 people from the first estates and the second states, representative of each, who were seated in the rows facing each other. You can see in the picture as well. And while the 600 members of the third estate had a stand at the back. The third estate was represented by its more prosperous and the educated members only, while peasants, artisans, and women were denied entry to the assembly. Voting in a state journal in the past had been conducted according to the principles that each estate had one vote, and same practice to be continued this time. So third estates to walk out in the protest, they vowed not to disperse until a constitution was drawn up for France that would restrict the powers of the king. So members of the third estate demanded each member would have one vote. National Assembly was the next step which has taken over here. So Mirabeau and Noble and the Abbe CS is a priest led the third estate on 20th June. The representatives of the third estate assembled in the hall of an indoor tennis court in the ground of Versailles, where they declared themselves a national assembly and vowed to draft a constitution for France that would limit the powers of the monarch. While the National Assembly was busy at Versailles drafting a constitution, the rest of France was in trouble. A severe winter destroyed the food crops, which resulted in the increase in the prices. After spending hours in a long queues at the bakery, crowds of angry women stormed into the shops. At the same time, the king ordered troops to move into Paris. On 14 July, the agitated crowd stormed and destroyed the Bastille. Now, here France becomes a constitutional monarchy. On the night of 4th August 1789, the Assembly passed a decree abolishing the feudal system of obligations and taxes. National Assembly completed the draft of the Constitution with main object, that is, limit the power of the monarch. Powers were separated into the legislature, executive, and judiciary, which made France constitutional monarchy. Here, the features of the Constitution we are going to discuss. So, National Assembly was elected by a group of electors which was chosen by active citizens. Active citizens comprises of only men about 25 years of age who paid taxes. Remaining men and women were called passive citizens who had no voting rights. Declaration of Rights of Man and Citizen. Man are born and remain free and equal in rights. The aim of every political association in the preservation of the natural and inalienable rights of man. These are liberty, property, security, and resistance to oppressions. The source of all sovereignty resides in the nation. No group or individual may exercise authority that does not come from the people. The Declaration of Rights, Man and Citizen, as I said, painted by the artist Le Barbier in 1719. The figure on the right represents France. The figure on the left symbolizes the law. Here we are going to discuss the Constitution begin with the Declaration of Rights and Man and Citizens. Rights such as the right to life, freedom of speech, freedom of opinion, equality before law were given to each human being by birth and could not be taken away. It was a duty of the state to protect each citizen's natural rights. Various political symbols, it was symbols added because many of the people who were not knowing reading and writing. So various political symbols which you can see on screen. One is a broken chain. This stands for the act of becoming free. The bundle of rods or fasces, that shows the strength lies in unity. The third, you can see the eye within a triangle, that is radiating lights. The all-seeing eye stands for knowledge. Then Sceptre is that symbol of royal power, snake biting its tail to form a ring, symbol of eternity. Red Phrygian cap, you can see that wore by the slave upon becoming free. Blue, white, red, these colors, the national colors of France. The winged woman, that personification of the law. The law tablet, the law is the same for all and all are equal before it. Here we will discuss the France abolishes monarchy and becomes a republic. Louis XVI had signed the constitution but entered into secret negotiations with the king of Prussia. So in April 1792, the National Assembly decided to wage a war against Prussia and Austria. Marseillaise by then had become the national anthem of France. While men were fighting wars, women cared for their families. Large sections of society demanded that the revolution should continue as the Constitution of 1791 granted political rights to only the wealthier sections of the society. Political clubs were established and the Jacobins became the most successful club among them. Here we'll just discuss about the Jacobins. So Constitution of 1971 gave political rights only to rich men. Jacobin members began to wear long striped pants similar to those donned by the dock workers. These Jacobins were nicknamed the sans culottes, literally translated to those without knee breeches. Jacobin revolt. On August 10, 1792, Jacobins barged through Tuileries Palace and held the king hostage for several hours. Elections were held and at last all men aged 21 and over were given the right to vote. National Assembly voted to imprison the royal family. On 21st September 1792, the monarchy was outlawed and France was declared a republic. Louis XVI was executed by a court on charges of treason. All men of 21 years and above, regardless of wealth, got their right to vote. The period from 1793 to 1794 has been called the Reign of Terror. People whom Robespierre considered as enemies of the Republic were detained, imprisoned, and tried by the revolutionary commissions. If they were found guilty of a crime, they would be guillotined. Rules were imprisoned to set a maximum ceiling on prices and wages. Meat and bread were already rationed. It was forbidden to use expensive white flour. Equality was practiced through type of expressions and address. All men and women were addressed as citoyen and citoyenne. The fall of Jacobins' government led the richer middle classes to come into power. As per the new constitution, non-proprietary sections of the society had already refused to vote. It was established for 2 legislative councils to be elected. The board of directors was appointed by the government, consisting of 5 officials. Political unrest paved the way for new ruler of France, Napoleon Bonaparte, a military dictator. Women have been active participants in the revolution, which has brought significant changes in France. Women also set up their political clubs and newspapers. They demanded equal political rights as men, voting rights, and to hold public offices. The progressive government introduced legislation to improve the conditions of the women. Schooling had become compulsory. Divorce was legalized and the small businesses could be run by women now. During the reign of terror, the state shut down women's clubs, restricting their political activities. After a lot of struggle, women received the rights to vote in France in 1946. Olympe de Gouges was a French revolutionary woman who born in 1748 and died in 1793. She was a writer, playwright, and political activist who became famous for her advocacy of women's rights and her oppositions to slavery. Her work challenged the dominant political and social norms of her time, and she remains an important figure in the history of feminism and human rights. The most revolutionary social reform of Jacobin regime was the abolition of slavery in the French colonies. Slave trade began in the 17th century, where slaves were brought from local chiefs, branded and chained tightly packed into ships for 3 months' journey across the Atlantic to the Caribbean. Slavery met the increasing demands in the European countries for sugar, coffee, and indigo. During the 18th century, there was hardly any condemnation of slavery in France. In 1794, the conventions legislated the liberation of all slaves in French overseas assets. After 10 years, Napoleon reintroduced slavery, which was abolished in French colonies later in 1848. France witnessed changes in the lives of men, women, and children in 1789. The abolition of censorship took place in summer of 1789. The Declaration of the Right of Man and Citizens had affirmed freedom of speech and expressions as a natural right. Press freedom meant that oppositions to actions could be expressed. These rights of individuals are all about the French Revolution and its motives. This is a summary of about the French Revolution, which gives us an insight into the aftermath of the French Revolution. Napoleon Bonaparte crowned himself Emperor of the France in the 1804 and launched a number of laws such as the protection of the private property and the uniform system of weight and measuring given by the decimal system. Napoleon was defeated by Waterloo in 1815. The ideas of liberty and democratic rights were most important achievements of the French Revolution. Colonized people have redefined the ideas of freedom to create a sovereign nation state. This is an assignment for you all. You can write answer in the comment sections of this assignment. Thank you so much. Keep watching. Please like, share, and subscribe my channel for all new videos.